The courtroom was too warm for how cold my hands felt. My sister, Kendra, sat at the plaintiff's table in a cream blazer that looked expensive on purpose. Her lawyer's laptop was open, his yellow pad squared to the table like he was building a clean story line by line. Behind them, my parents sat in the second row, my mother clutching her purse like a shield, my father staring at the judge's bench like this was finally going to fix me. I stood with my attorney at the respondent's table and listened to the judge read the last paragraph of the proposed judgment. And therefore, the court awards possession and ownership interest in the property located at, he said my address, not the street where I grew up, the one I'd worked for, the one I'd refinanced when rates were low, and the one I'd painted myself on weekends because contractors cost money and my sister never lifted a finger unless there was something to take. Kendra didn't cry. She didn't look relieved. She smirked. It was small, practiced, like she wanted me to see it but didn't want the court to. My mother exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for months. My father's shoulders dropped, satisfied, like my home had been a family asset all along instead of my life. My attorney leaned toward me. "We can still object," she whispered. "We can still ask for—" I shook my head once, not because I didn't understand what I was losing, because I understood something else my sister didn't. The judge looked up. "Ms. Whitaker, do you understand the terms of this judgment?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said, and my voice didn't shake. Kendra's lawyer stood, already smiling. "We appreciate the court's time. My client is prepared to take possession immediately." My mother leaned toward my father, whispering something that sounded like a prayer and a victory lap at the same time. The judge nodded, pen poised. "Then I will sign." I could have fought harder. I could have made it ugly. I could have begged, cried, performed. But I didn't come here to perform. I came here to end it. "Your Honor," I said calmly. The judge paused. "Yes, ma'am." I asked the only question I'd rehearsed, the one that mattered more than the judgment itself. "Will she be taking ownership today?" Kendra's smirk widened like she couldn't believe I was handing her the keys to her favorite fantasy. Her lawyer nodded, almost cheerful. "Yes, we'd like the order entered today. And we'll record it with the county." My attorney's eyes flicked to me, confused. The judge looked at the clerk. "Can we process that today?" The clerk, an older woman with glasses on a chain and a face that had seen every family fight disguised as a legal dispute, didn't answer right away. She pulled a folder from a tray, checked a sticky tab, then slid a single document across the bench to the judge. Not to me, not to my sister, to the judge. The judge glanced down at it, then pushed it back toward the clerk. "Give that to counsel." The clerk stood and walked it down, straight past my table, then placed it in front of Kendra's lawyer like it belonged there. It was one page. No drama, no speeches. A notice with a bold header and a case number, the kind of paper that doesn't care who's smirking. Kendra's lawyer picked it up with 2 fingers like it was an inconvenience. He read the first line. His smile didn't fade at first. It froze. He read it again, slower. Then his eyes moved to the bottom where the amount was printed, and the color drained out of his face so fast it looked like someone had turned down the lights. Kendra leaned toward him, whispering, "What is it?" He didn't answer her. He just stared at the page as if he was trying to negotiate with ink. My father shifted in the gallery. My mother's victory posture collapsed into confusion. The judge's voice stayed calm. "Counsel, you should read that aloud for the record." Kendra's lawyer swallowed hard. "Your Honor, this is a notice," the judge said, still even. "Read it." Kendra's lawyer's hand trembled slightly as he lifted the page. His voice came out tight. "It's a notice of outstanding obligations attached to the property," he said. The clerk didn't blink. "Mandatory disclosure before recording." Kendra blinked like she didn't understand the words. My parents stared at her lawyer like he'd suddenly become the enemy. The lawyer looked up at the judge, and his voice lowered instinctively. "Your Honor, this indicates a municipal lien and an assessment." The judge nodded once. "Correct." Kendra finally snapped, "How much?" Her lawyer didn't want to say it. I could see that. But courtrooms don't run on wants. He looked back down at the page and spoke the number like it hurt. A combined amount due of $112,000. The air in the room changed. Kendra's smirk vanished. My mother's mouth fell open. And my father sat forward like he could physically pull the words back into the paper. Kendra's lawyer went paler still as he read the next line, the line that explained the cost of winning today. He didn't look at me when he said it. He looked at Kendra. "This isn't optional," he whispered. "If you record the judgment and take ownership, you assume it." For a few seconds, Kendra just stared at her lawyer like he'd betrayed her. My mother leaned forward in the gallery, whispering urgently, "What does that mean?" "Assume it." My father's face tightened, the relief from a minute ago evaporating into something that looked like panic. Kendra snapped, louder than she meant to. "That's not my debt. That's her debt." Her lawyer didn't even look at my parents. He kept his eyes on the notice, or scanning the lines the way a person scans a cliff edge they didn't know they were walking toward. "Your Honor," he said carefully, "we need a brief recess to confer. This is new information." The judge's expression didn't change. "It's not new. It's attached to the property record." Kendra's voice went sharp. "I never got any notice." The clerk finally spoke, voice flat. "Because you weren't the owner. Notices go to the owner of record." Kendra whipped her head toward me. "You hit it." I didn't move. I didn't even blink fast. "It's public record." My attorney's pen tapped once against her pad, a quiet warning to keep it clean. Facts only. The judge leaned forward slightly. "Counsel," he said to Kendra's lawyer, "you requested immediate entry of judgment and stated you would record it today. And this notice exists specifically to prevent someone from taking title without understanding the obligations." Kendra's lawyer swallowed. "Your Honor, we're not asking to avoid obligations. We're asking—" "You're asking to be surprised," the judge said. "You're not." He turned to the clerk. "Clerk, confirm for the record. If judgment is recorded and the petitioner takes title, do these obligations remain with the property?" "Yes, Your Honor," the clerk replied without hesitation. "They run with the property." Kendra's lawyer looked like he wanted to argue semantics, but he didn't. He knew the judge wasn't going to entertain word games when there was a number at the bottom of the page. Kendra leaned toward him, whispering hard. "Fix it," he whispered back, and I caught enough to understand why his face had gone pale. "If you take title, or the HOA can lien and foreclose, and the city can escalate, and there's a deadline." Kendra sat back slowly, the smirk gone like it had never existed. My father turned toward my mother, whispering furiously now. My mother shook her head like she wanted to deny the whole concept of consequences. The judge looked at both attorneys. "We're going to do this properly. If petitioner wants ownership today, petitioner takes ownership with all recorded obligations. If petitioner doesn't want ownership, we can continue this matter and address enforcement differently." Kendra's lawyer stood again, voice strained. "Your Honor, my client may wish to accept the judgment, but request that the respondent remain responsible for liens incurred during her ownership." The judge didn't flinch. "That's not how recorded obligations work." Kendra blurted, "Then make her pay it first." My attorney finally spoke, calm and clear. "Your Honor, the petitioner asked for ownership and possession as relief. She didn't ask for a money judgment limited to equity. She asked for the property." The judge nodded once. "Correct." Then he looked at me. "Ms. Whitaker, you asked a very specific question, whether she would be taking ownership today." "Yes, Your Honor." "Why?" he asked. I kept my voice steady. "Because if she takes it today, the obligations transfer with it. If she doesn't, then her emergency petition was never about the house. It was about control." Kendra's eyes flashed. "You're twisting—" The judge cut her off. "Petitioner, your lawyer speaks for you." He turned to the clerk again. "Clerk, I want the itemization for the record." We read the categories. The clerk adjusted her glasses and read exactly what was printed, boring words that sounded like a trap. "Municipal lien for code enforcement remediation," she said. $84,000. Kendra sucked in a breath. "HOA special assessment. Structural repairs," the clerk continued. $28,000. My mother's mouth fell open. "And due dates," the judge said. The clerk read them. One due in 10 days, another in 30. A final line that explained what happens when you don't pay, additional penalties, legal fees, and enforcement rights. Kendra's lawyer's hands were still on the paper. His knuckles had gone white. He stood, cleared his throat, and tried one more angle. "Your Honor, my client is prepared to accept ownership, but we request a payment plan order." The judge shook his head once. "I don't order the city to do payment plans. I don't order an HOA to forgive an assessment. I order what the court can order." Kendra snapped. "So what? She gets out of it?" My attorney answered before I could. "No, she was already paying it. You just wanted the house." That line landed hard because it was simple. You wanted the thing. The thing comes with its cost. My parents shifted in their seats as if they could physically separate house from debt by believing hard enough. The judge leaned back. "Petitioner, you have a choice. Do you want the judgment entered and recorded today?" Kendra's eyes darted to her lawyer, then to my parents, then back to the bench. My mother whispered, "Say yes, say yes. We didn't come here for nothing." Kendra's jaw clenched. "Yes," she said, "I want it." Her lawyer's head snapped toward her, alarmed. "Kendra," she hissed back, "stop! I'm not losing." The judge nodded once, like he'd just watched someone choose a door without looking through the peephole. "Very well," he said. "Judgment will be entered." Kendra's shoulders lifted, relief trying to return. Then the clerk added, without emotion, "The notice must be acknowledged." Kendra blinked. "Acknowledged?" The clerk slid another sheet forward, an acknowledgement form attached to the notice with a signature line. "Before recording," the clerk said, "the receiving party signs confirming they understand the obligations." Kendra stared at the signature line like it was radioactive. Her lawyer leaned in and whispered, "If you sign that, you can't claim you didn't know." Kendra looked up at the judge. "Do I have to sign?" "If you want to record today," the judge replied. Yes." My father muttered something sharp under his breath. My mother's face tightened like she wanted to cry and threaten at the same time. Kendra picked up the pen, and for a second I almost saw her hesitate, not because she suddenly developed conscience, but because she could finally feel the weight of what she'd been chasing. Her lawyer tried one last whisper. "We can ask to continue. We can negotiate. We can—" Kendra slammed the pen down onto the paper and signed. The judge watched it, then nodded at the clerk. "So noted." The clerk stamped the acknowledgement with the case number and date, one dull stamp that made it official. Kendra sat back, breathing hard like she'd just won a marathon. My mother reached for my father's hand, relieved again. Then my attorney leaned toward me, very quietly. "Now it starts." Because the judgment wasn't the end. It was just the transfer. As we stood to leave, Kendra turned her head toward me, voice low, smug, trying to crawl back. "You think you're clever?" she whispered. "You're still losing your house." I looked at her and kept my voice calm enough for the court hallway to hear if it needed to. "I asked one question," I said, "because there's one more notice you haven't seen yet." Her smirk froze again, and this time it didn't look like confidence. It looked like fear of paperwork. Kendra left the courtroom like she'd just won a trophy. She didn't look at my parents first. She looked at the hallway doors, already moving, already acting like the house belonged to her in every way that mattered. Her lawyer followed with the stamped acknowledgement in his hand, jaw tight, eyes scanning like he was trying to outrun what he'd just read. My parents rushed behind them, whispering, celebrating too early, the way they always did when they thought control was back in their hands. My attorney touched my elbow. "Don't engage," she murmured. "Let them record it. Let it attach." I nodded once and kept walking. Not away from the loss, but away from the performance. Because I hadn't come to save the house. I'd come to stop letting my sister use it as a leash. In the courthouse lobby, Kendra's lawyer went straight to the recording kiosk table and pulled out his phone, already dialing the county recorder's office. "We need same-day recording," he said briskly. "Judgment for transfer. Yes, with acknowledgement. Correct." Kendra hovered beside him like a queen watching someone build her throne. My mother whispered, "Wanna make sure it's today, before she does anything." My father's voice was low and satisfied. Finally. Kendra flicked her eyes toward me across the lobby and smiled like a dare. I didn't smile back. I did what I'd done for months. I followed the boring checklist that keeps you safe. I opened my own phone and changed one thing, my mailing address on the homeowner portal to my new place, the small rental I'd signed quietly when I realized the house fight was never going to end with love. My attorney watched my screen for a second and nodded. "Good, close your side." Then she added, softer, "You really were ready to let her take it." "I was ready to stop drowning for it," I replied. 10 minutes later, Kendra's lawyer snapped his phone shut and motioned for Kendra and my parents to follow. "Recorder is holding a counter slot," he said, and his voice sounded strained in a way that didn't match the word holding. They marched out as a group. Kendra in front, my parents behind her like backup dancers for a victory they didn't understand. My attorney and I followed at a distance because she wanted the paper trail clean. If they claimed later I tricked them or ambushed them, we would have timestamps, logs, and witnesses showing the clerk did exactly what clerks always do: disclose what's on record. The county recorder's office was in a plain government building that smelled like floor wax and printer toner. There were plastic chairs bolted to the floor and a sign that said, "No advice given," in 3 languages. Kendra didn't read signs. She didn't believe they applied to her. She walked up to the counter with her chin lifted and said, "We're here to record a judgment." The clerk, an older man with tired eyes, didn't react. He took the documents, scanned the case number, and typed quietly for a moment. Then his printer whirred. He slid a packet across the counter. Not 1 page. A packet. Kendra's lawyer reached for it, and the clerk held up a hand. "Before you sign," the clerk said, "you need to acknowledge additional transfer-triggered obligations." Kendra blinked. "We already acknowledged the notice." "This is separate," the clerk replied, flat. "Not a lien, a deferred program balance." Kendra's lawyer went still. I watched his face while he read the header because it hit him before it hit her. "Deferred payment acceleration notice. Home improvement program balance due upon transfer of ownership." He read the next line once, then again. Then his eyes dropped to the amount and his throat moved like he was trying to swallow something sharp. Kendra leaned closer. "What is that?" Her lawyer didn't answer right away. He kept reading, because lawyers know the first line is never the whole damage. The clerk pointed to a paragraph with his pen. "It converts when title changes, due within 15 days. If unpaid, they record the lien and begin enforcement." Kendra's voice went high. "How much?" Her lawyer finally exhaled and said it like it hurt to give it air. $76,000, he said. My mother made a sound that wasn't quite a gasp, not quite a sob. My father's eyes widened, then snapped toward me as if he wanted to accuse me of handwriting the state's policies. Kendra's face flushed. "That's not real." The clerk didn't blink. "Oh, it is." Kendra slapped the counter lightly with her palm. "Why wasn't that in court?" "Because it isn't recorded as a lien until it accelerates," the clerk said. "Acceleration happens on transfer. That's why you're seeing it now." Kendra's lawyer's voice dropped into damage control. "Is there any way to delay acceleration?" The clerk's answer was simple. "Don't record." Kendra snapped her head toward her lawyer. "Record it." He hesitated, just a fraction. Kendra, he said low, if we record, you've got $112,000 in liens and assessment plus this program balance due in 15 days. That's close to $200,000, and that's before legal fees. Kendra's eyes went wild. So what? We just give up. My mother leaned in, urgent. You can't give up. We're finally... My father hissed, record it. We didn't come here for nothing. Kendra's lawyer looked like he wanted to argue with them, then remembered who was paying him and how family pressure works. He slid the packet back to Kendra. You must sign acknowledgement, he said, or we can't record today. Kendra snatched the pen. She didn't read. She didn't ask for a copy to review. She did what she always did when confronted with reality. She tried to overpower it with speed. She signed. The clerk stamped the acknowledgement, clipped it to the judgment, and said, "Recording will be processed." Kendra breathed like she'd won again, but her lawyer didn't breathe at all. He stared at the stamped packet like he'd just watched someone accept a gift wrapped in explosives. As we stepped away from the counter, my attorney leaned toward me. Now the clock starts." Kendra turned on me the second we hit the lobby, eyes sharp, voice low and venomous. "You knew," she hissed. "You knew about that program balance." I didn't deny it. I didn't gloat either. "I knew what ownership includes," I said. "That's why I asked if you wanted it today." My father stepped in, furious. "You set her up." "No," my attorney said calmly, finally stepping beside me. "Public records and disclosure requirements did this. Your daughter chose to sign." Kendra's lawyer rubbed his forehead with 2 fingers. "We need to discuss financing," Kendra snapped. "I'll figure it out." Her phone buzzed immediately, like the universe wanted to prove a point. She glanced down, and I saw her expression change as she read the subject line, because some systems move faster than people think. On her HOA management company had already been notified of the pending transfer through their county monitoring service, and they'd sent an automated welcome email to the new owner. Kendra read it once, then again, and her mouth opened slightly. Her lawyer leaned in, read it over her shoulder, and went pale all over again. Not because of the amount, because of the deadline. And because the email ended with one sentence that sounded like a door slamming. Failure to pay will result in immediate lien enforcement and foreclosure action. Kendra's confidence didn't survive the next 24 hours. It didn't even survive the walk back to her car. In the parking lot, she shoved her phone in her lawyer's face. "Call them. Tell them it's wrong." Her lawyer didn't take the phone like a servant. He read the HOA email again. Or he then looked at her with the kind of expression lawyers get when a client has just stepped off a cliff. "Kendra," he said, "it's automated because the county monitor caught the transfer. They're not asking your opinion. They're telling you their timeline." My mother's voice trembled, trying to patch the moment with denial. "But she can pay later. She'll refinance." Her lawyer exhaled sharply. "Refinance what? The property is now encumbered. The city lien, the assessment, and the accelerated program balance all affect underwriting. A lender will see a storm." My father snapped, "Then sell it." The lawyer's head turned slowly toward him. "Sell it, with these on it, and with the HOA watching, and with the city lien already active, you'd be selling a problem at a discount." Kendra's eyes flashed. "It's still worth something. It's worth something after you clear the obligations," her lawyer replied. Kendra didn't like that answer. She didn't like any answer that wasn't magic. She spun on me in the lot, voice rising. "You're enjoying this?" I kept my voice calm. "I'm not. I'm finished." Her mouth twisted. "Finished? You're homeless." My attorney stepped forward, steady. "She has housing, and you have deadlines." That line cut through the family noise like a scalpel, because it was true. I wasn't standing there with a suitcase. I'd already moved what mattered. I'd already signed a lease elsewhere. The house was never my only shelter. It was my sister's obsession. Kendra tried to call the HOA from the lot. I watched her pace, laughed too sharply. and then go quiet as the person on the other end refused to negotiate with someone who had just taken title and wanted to argue with policy. My mother kept whispering, "We'll help you," like money appears when fear is loud enough. My father kept saying, "This is unfair," like fairness has ever been part of Kendra's methods. My attorney touched my elbow. "We should leave." I nodded and walked away. That was the first consequence I wanted. My body leaving the battlefield before it could become my identity again. 2 days later, Kendra called, not to apologize, to bargain. She left a voicemail that started with a laugh like she was trying to sound casual. Okay, she said. "You made your point. Let's just swap. I'll give it back. We'll undo it." Undo it. Like title is a sweater you return. My attorney called her lawyer instead of letting me respond because that's what boundaries look like when they have teeth. When she hung up, she looked at me. They can't undo it without court involvement and recording reversal. And reversal doesn't erase obligations triggered by transfer. Some of these already matured. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means the clock started the moment she recorded," she said. "And she signed acknowledgments. They can't unknow what they knew." A week later, the first formal notice arrived at Kendra's new address. Certified mail from the city. Code Enforcement Lien Division. Not emotional, not angry. Just a due date, a penalty schedule, and the words, "Enforcement Action" in bold. That same week, Niet the HOA posted a lien warning to the owner portal and sent a second email. Final deadline for the special assessment payment. Kendra tried to fight it the only way she knew. She posted online, called relatives, and told everyone I'd sabotaged her. But sabotage isn't a legal argument when the clerk gave you a notice and you signed it twice. My parents tried to pressure me too. My mother showed up at my new apartment building, caught by the front desk before she could get past the lobby. She called me from the lobby phone, sobbing like grief could open locked doors. "Please," she cried. "She'll lose the house. We need you to help." I stood in my kitchen, in my new place, and looked at my mug on the counter, and I felt something calm settle in. "Help how?" I asked. "You know the systems," my father said, voice tight. "You can call someone. You can fix it." "I don't control the city," I replied. "I don't control the HOA, and I'm not taking the title back." My mother's sobbing sharpened into anger. "So you're going to let your sister be ruined?" I said one sentence, quiet and final. "I'm going to let ownership mean ownership." I hung up. 10 days after recording, Kendra's lawyer filed a motion, not against me, against time. He asked the court for relief, claiming newly discovered obligations, an unfair surprise. He tried to paint Kendra as a victim who couldn't have known. My attorney's response was 1 page long and lethal in its simplicity. Notice provided in court. Notice provided at recorder. Acknowledgement signed. Clerk warnings on record. Transfer voluntary and demanded by petitioner. The judge didn't take long. He denied the motion and added something small but devastating. Kendra was responsible for my attorney's fees incurred responding to her post-judgment litigation. Fees on top of liens. My father stopped calling after that. My mother kept calling anyway, until my attorney sent a no-contact warning tied to harassment documentation and the building's security logs. Kendra held on longer. She tried to rent the house out to cover the payments. The HOA rules required approval. Her tenant application was rejected for unresolved liens and an active enforcement action. She tried to take a home equity loan. Denied. She tried to sell as is. Buyers backed out when the title report returned. One investor offered a lowball number that didn't even cover the liens, and she screamed at him in the parking lot. The house didn't care. Paper doesn't care. But 30 days after the recording, the HOA filed the lien. It hit the public record with a recording number. Clean, final, searchable. And 2 weeks after that, a foreclosure notice was posted to the owner portal with a hearing date. Kendra called me again that night. This time she didn't sound smug. She sounded small. "I didn't know it would be like this," she whispered. I didn't soften. I didn't gloat. I just said the only honest thing. That's why I asked if you wanted ownership today. She inhaled sharply, and then her voice turned bitter again, because bitterness is easier than accountability. You still lost your home, she snapped. I looked around my new apartment, boxes unpacked, a quiet kitchen, no footsteps outside my door that belonged to people who thought they owned me. I lost a building, I said. I got my life back. The foreclosure hearing was set for the next morning, and for the first time since this started, I slept through the night. The foreclosure hearing wasn't the kind of courtroom moment that makes people clap. It was 15 minutes on a calendar docket with a judge who had seen every version of I Didn't Know 100 times. Kendra showed up in a black outfit like she thought looking serious could reverse recorded notices. Her lawyer looked exhausted, carrying a thick folder that couldn't change the one thing that mattered. The deadlines had matured, and the liens were now real on the public record. My parents sat behind her, faces pinched and angry, like the universe had cheated them by enforcing rules they'd never bothered to read. The HOA's attorney appeared by video, calm, prepared, boring. So the way real power shows up when it has the paperwork. He stated the facts in plain language: unpaid special assessment, failure to cure, lien recorded, enforcement authorized per governing documents and state statute. Kendra's lawyer tried once. Your Honor, my client is seeking equitable relief. She was not properly informed of the extent. The judge cut him off gently. Counsel, your client was informed in open court and again at recording. She signed acknowledgement. He turned to Kendra. Ma'am, do you have proof of payment? Kendra's mouth opened, closed. Not yet. Do you have proof of a payment agreement? The judge asked. No, she whispered, smaller. The judge nodded once. Then the lien stands and enforcement proceeds. No gavel slam, no lecture, just the kind of sentence that becomes a door. Then Kendra's shoulders sagged like her body finally understood what her ego kept denying. Outside the courtroom, my mother tried the last version of the script, grief as control. You did this, she hissed at me, eyes wet, voice sharp. You ruined her. I didn't raise my voice. She demanded the house. She signed for the obligations. The city and the HOA did the rest. My father stepped in, furious. You knew it would happen. I nodded once. That's why I asked if she was taking ownership today. He stared at me like the truth offended him more than any insult could. Kendra didn't scream. She didn't perform. She just stood there shaking, staring at the exit sign like she wanted it to turn into a time machine. 2 weeks later, the practical consequences hit in the way they always do, quietly, officially, and all at once. When the city recorded its enforcement action, the HOA updated the owner portal with a final demand. Kendra's mailbox filled with certified envelopes she stopped signing for, until her lawyer told her not signing doesn't make it go away. A month after the lien hearing, the house went to a trustee sale, not a dramatic auction, just a posted notice, a short window, and an investor who knew exactly what he was buying, a distressed property with obligations attached. The sale price was low enough to hurt and high enough to cover the top layer of the mess, barely. Kendra didn't walk away rich. She walked away with what she'd earned, the cost of grabbing something without doing the homework. Her lawyer sent my attorney the fee payment ordered by the judge for the post-judgment motion, one clean transfer with no message attached. And silence is what people send when the record has them cornered. My parents tried to pivot once the house was gone. My mother called and left a voicemail that sounded like a soft landing, like she was rewriting the last year into a misunderstanding. Let's just move forward, she said. We're family. But family wasn't what they offered when Kendra lied and they wanted a villain. Family was what they offered now that the consequences had landed in their living room. I didn't respond, not because I hated them, because I finally understood what my sister taught me by accident. If you keep letting people back in after they prove what they do with access, you're not forgiving. You're volunteering. Kendra tried to contact me one last time, not through threats, not through guilt, but through a message that was almost honest. "And I can't believe you let me do it," she wrote. I stared at it for a long moment, then typed one sentence and sent it. "I didn't let you. I stopped fighting you." She didn't reply. Because there's no comeback to a boundary that refuses to play. 3 months later, my life looked smaller in square footage and bigger in every other way. My rent was predictable. My door was quiet. My phone wasn't full of urgent calls. I could come home without that constant low-level dread of someone showing up to take what I'd built. And the strangest part? I didn't miss the house the way I thought I would. I missed the idea of what it was supposed to mean. Security, stability, proof that my work mattered. But security isn't a building if the people around it keep trying to break in. Security is a door that stays shut because it's allowed to stay shut. Or my attorney filed one last document, a final satisfaction note confirming I'd complied with the judgment transfer and that all future enforcement belonged to the new owner and the lien holders. Clean ending, closed loop, no loose ends. Kendra lost the house she begged the court for. My parents lost the fantasy that they could steer my life by choosing her over me. And I lost the one thing I should have let go of earlier, the need to win their approval. I didn't win in the way Kendra understands winning. I won in the only way that matters when you've spent years being pulled into someone else's chaos. I got free. If someone in your family tried to take your home like it was a trophy, would you fight to keep the building? Or would you step aside and let ownership teach them what your warnings never could? Tell me what you would have done. Like and subscribe for more stories where paperwork beats pressure. I'll see you next time.